Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Professor Vicky Nie. Vicky is a faculty at CityU University in Canada. She teaches finance and international business. Her current research focuses on Indigenous entrepreneurship in Western Canada. She has more than 15 years of industry experience in corporate strategy and trade financing. Vicky holds an M.Sc in accounting and finance from University of Birmingham, UK, and a B.Econ from Nankai University in China. It's a great pleasure to have you with me today, Vicky.
Hi, very nice to meet you, David.
Prior to joining academia, you had a successful professional career in the finance industry. What made you to switch to academia?
So before I started my teaching in university in 2003, I was working for HSBC Data Processing Center in Shanghai. So my job field is like the account management and trade finance service. Actually, my first job when I graduated from university in 1999 was in an international trade company. So I'm very familiar with this field. I really enjoyed to deal with some complicated projects with my clients. So in HSBC, we also provide trade finance service to our customers. So we help them to check the contract, and also we offering the letter of credit service to them. So this field is very professional. Actually it is more a legal perspective. So I have a certificate, a designation of a documentary credit specialist by International Chamber of Commerce. So the career in international in finance industry is definitely rewarding. But sometimes in 2003, I thought I would like to switch to academia to contribute, to share my knowledge with the next generation, with my students. So I had a chance to become the faculty in Shanghai International University of Economics and Business. So at that time, we need a professor, we need a faculty who can teach both finance and international trade, and along with the international economics in English. Because at that time, we had a collaboration with Australian university. So I really appreciate this opportunity. And finally, I have a chance to polish my my knowledge from the practice, and along with the with more theoretical perspective, to combine the practice and the theory together. So and when I in 2009 I started my consultant career. It's like in Citibank, also data processing center in Shanghai. I really appreciate this opportunity because from the 1 year experience, I have learned more about the documentary credit, the more details in trade finance. It also helped me in my teaching. And at that time, from 2011 to 2012, I started my case writing, collaborating with my Canadian colleagues. So I relocated to Canada in 2015, and I was able to continue my teaching in McEwan University in Alberta, and I continue to do my research in case teaching and learning with my colleagues. So we published a few cases. So it's really rewarding to switch my career to trade finance to academia.
You have taught at business schools in Canada, United States, Australia, UK, India, Mexico, and China, so many places. What it is like to teach in different places, and how has those international experiences shaped your teaching style?
So honestly, it was very challenging at the beginning to teach in a multicultural environment. So I taught, I was a teaching assistant of corporate finance when I was a visiting scholar in Australia.
Okay.
So it's really, we had a very big lecture at that time. So probably 300 students in one lecture, and they will be grouped in the learning groups. So for me, it's quite challenging because it's hard for me to manage a very huge class, but I was doing the tutoring jobs for the small groups.
Okay.
So I thought it's quite challenging to understand students' questions at the very beginning. Because students actually, because they can't learn a lot in the big lecture, so they may ask very basic questions during the tutorials. So for me, I have to prepare in advance. And also when I relocated to Canada, when I was teaching in McEwen University, we have more local students. So I think the most challenging thing is to understand another culture. So at the beginning, I used a very traditional Asian style teaching. So I designed my course like I'm talking and students, they just have to listen, right? And very less interaction. But after one class, students came to me. So they said, Professor, we really want more interaction because when you are talking, we don't understand. So it made me think about it. So I said, oh, sure, I must do more interactive activities. So I used the case teaching for my undergraduates. I asked them to do the posters. So they have very creative ideas. So they're able to present their ideas in a very beautiful poster, right? So I design my classroom like more flip classroom. So I use my teaching method when I was in a company. And also after my corporate finance course, when I was in McEwen, I use an example to explain the timeline. So I just simply draw a line on the board. And I thought it's clear because it is only about to read the chart and graph. And one student came to me and he said, no, Professor, if you only draw a line, we probably don't understand. We like you give like examples, like a punch. Like you punch one year, and after that we may understand. So I think it's like a culture. It's like a culture barrier I have to overcome. So, because in traditional Asian teaching, we don't have to give more examples, right? Students, I would only request students to take notes and follow my instruction. We don't learn to think. It's a very traditional Asian teaching, but here students. Probably they more interesting examples, which they can also think about that, and they can also ask me challenging questions. In Asia, probably no, right? And also, another huge challenge is when I first relocated to Vancouver, I have a very multinational classroom environment because in Alberta, we had more local students. So here I have students from India, students from Philippines, students from African countries and Caribbean countries. So they're very diversified. For them, for me, I have more things to learn. I have to learn very different cultures as well, right? So for some students, I can't simply apply the teaching method when I was in Alberta. So I have to reshape my teaching. I give them more notes, probably. Some videos. So it's very interesting. In Alberta, students like to watch some videos. Because it's easier to help them to learn. But in Vancouver, I have more Asian students. So they don't like to, they think it's quite empty. Professor just play videos for us. So they like more detailed explanation again, just like I was in Asia. So it's really interesting. And also students they are very keen to learn some Canadian culture because most of them are very new to Canada. So I use more Canadian examples, some practice, and they are very keen to learn the Indigenous community. Because now we add lots of elements in Indigenous business, but they are very new to Canada. They don't know the background. They don't know the history. I once invited Indigenous student in Alberta to give a guest lecture to our students. They are very interested. And they always ask me, what's the difference between Canadian culture and Indigenous culture? I told them it's so challenging to me as well, because Alberta, they have their own tribes.
Yes.
In BC, they have another culture as well. I'm very interested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have written and published several business case studies to teach. Your current case focuses on Indigenous entrepreneurship. Can you please share what this case study is about?
Yeah. So previously, my case topics were all about the Chinese enterprise going global, and also companies' strategy, including the marketing strategy and the marketing strategy and operation strategy.
Okay.
And we published a case in 2014 about a new immigrants entrepreneur. So from that time, I'm interested in the female entrepreneur and the Indigenous entrepreneur in Canada. So may I share the screen with you? Yes. Case is about link the digital service, the Indigenous business growth. It is a case study about a young Métis entrepreneur. He's in Alberta now. So I knew this student. He was my student in McEwen, and he has a strong interest of Asian culture. He's a Métis as well. So, but he was born and growing in community, in a neighborhood in big cities in Edmonton. So actually, he sometimes he's confused about the identification, because he tried to learn the Métis language as well, and because he has interest in Asian culture, he has traveled to Asia for for some years. So now he set up his own business, but his business is very small. So actually, right now he's not very clear about the future paths of his business. So first, I would like to introduce a little bit about the company's background. Actually, I want to hear the feedback from my audience, from my colleagues.
Okay.
So the company is a company focused on digital services. Because he tried to, now he has a social media. So he aimed to modernize the traditional trade routes by bridging the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, both in Canada and internationally. He wants to have more exposure on the market. So now he's selling like some Indigenous products, and also he's marketing the Indigenous tourism, the tours and trips in Rocky Mountains. Their vision is to create connections and facilitate trade between these diverse environments, help companies and communities attract investment and connect with consumers who might not have been reachable before. So, because he learned, because he's able to speak some Asian language. So he tried to marketing the Indigenous products, not only in Canada, but internationally. And he also wants to reach the other cultures, community in Western Canada. So he positioned himself like a bridge, like a link between the Indigenous culture, both in Canada and internationally. So now actually he's buying some Indigenous products, like some souvenirs, some artifacts from Indigenous community and artists to accessing markets. So he has a small online shop as well. He wants to market his tourism, the products and the service in Vancouver, because there is a big Asian community. He wants to use his language advantage, like his expertise, to access the local community, and he wants to promote the markets. So he gave the name, they link the digital service, because he wants to utilize the social media and also his knowledge, his multicultural knowledge, to link the Indigenous community and the outside world. But definitely he has some barriers to overcome. he's the founder, my previous Métis student.
Okay.
But he is also confused sometimes because he wants to find identification because he was raised in a big city, another neighborhood, and he tried to link with his neighborhood and with the indigenous. So it is the company's background. So actually he's confused sometimes. He's unclear about the future development of the business, but he's very active. He joined the GEG20 Young Entrepreneur Conference a couple of times. Last year in Germany, and this year, right now, he's in India. So he tried to expand his connection and find the insights and some tips to grow his business. So we want to review the story, and we want to use the entrepreneur traits theory to identify the specific and unique characteristics of indigenous entrepreneur, like the culture identification, how to link the indigenous community with the outside world, and which kind of support they would like to receive from both federal and provincial government. Okay, it is the case background.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this very interesting case. Why did you choose to write this case, Vicky?
Yeah, so previously in 2014, we published a case about a new immigrants entrepreneur in Canada, about the female entrepreneur. So actually because Canada is a very multiple culture country, and quite a few new immigrants, when they first come here, they're lost because they don't know how to get a job, how to be integrated in the economy. So some of them, they tried to open their business because some of them are successful business people in their own countries. But there are quite a few barriers for them to overcome. So first, like the female entrepreneur, as we know, some of them, they may need more support from both family and the society. And we collect some data. Quite a few entrepreneurs are male, not female. So we want to detect how the female can be successful in their future business. So first, I focus on the newcomers, especially the female entrepreneur in Canada. But when I met my student, Jordan Hanna, because he also tried to set up his business. Because from his background, he found some indigenous community. They really have very good products. They have the good business idea, but due to the education, due to they unfamiliar with the market, they don't know how to get exposure on the market. Some of them, they even don't have access to internet. They don't know how to operate e-commerce. But he has like a multiple culture background, and he told me he doesn't want to limit it in Canada. He also wants the indigenous community can reach the outside of the country. And also from my teaching, I thought my students are very interested in indigenous culture in Canada. Right now we try to add more indigenous elements in our teaching, but for them it's quite also empty because they want to know more specific topics. So I want to give them more insights about what the indigenous community is like. So, and it is also can help the indigenous community, especially the artists, to reach out the customers. So I think I can use a case study to help students to understand the indigenous community, and also probably from my case, we can add some, we can enrich our teaching contents. And I use this case. I think we can add some elements to our curriculum as well. And we can continue, I can continue my research in entrepreneur, because I have read some indigenous cases in Ivy. So I think it's important for us to highlight the traits of the entrepreneurs. Is there any specific traits, specific characteristics indigenous young entrepreneurs should have? From my understanding of the some young métis, some of them they are eager to be identified from their neighborhood, but some of them, because they were growing up in big cities, right? They lost the connection with their neighbor community already. So they want to be integrated both with the modern society and their own community. So they really want to promote their culture and their products with the other communities. So I think the angle is interesting, not only limited in Canada. So they want to get exposure in international markets because they are able to, because of the growth of the e-commerce. And also in my teaching in my university, we have multicultural. We have very multicultural groups as well, right? So I think it is also important for them to understand the real indigenous culture, and they also want to learn how to start a new business as well. So I hope my case can be a link. Link the indigenous young, especially young indigenous entrepreneurs, and with my young students internationally. So in this case, we are going to use the SWOT analysis, hassle analysis. But right now, we still have the case position is not very clear. So now we only have the story, especially the personal story of the young entrepreneur. But the dilemma is not very clear. So far, he doesn't know how to grow his business. And he's receiving some support from both provincial and federal level. But the support, I mean, he's not clear if the support is enough. And the big barrier is he doesn't know how to compete with the very big social media and how he can get exposure on the market. He's not clear about his business position as well. At the very beginning, he thought he can promote his business from internationally, from the e-commerce platform. But looks like it's not very successful so far because the marketing channel is not clear. So we have the 4P mix in marketing, but from the production perspective, he's not very clear. And also like the logistic, like the business channel, he doesn't know how to connect his business with the market. So I read some cases in Ivy. So I'm trying to get ideas from those cases. So, and now the federal government, provincial government give funding to this business. We try to find if it is enough, if only from the funding perspective. Sometimes I think it's not sufficient. So the entrepreneur education and also like the more financing information, the marketing, how to market, how to design a marketing strategy. I think probably we should give them like some soft skills training, not only to give them some fundings. It's only my very preliminary idea. So I want to my goal is we connect with more indigenous entrepreneurs in BC and Alberta. So we want to do a case study, not only limited on one case. We aim to develop a model about successful indigenous entrepreneurs' traits. Is there any difference between them and the traditional entrepreneurs? And is there any specific characters between the local entrepreneurs, indigenous entrepreneurs, and the newcomer, the female entrepreneurs? We want to develop a model in the future, and which kind of support they want to receive from government, not only from the funding perspective, any soft skills they want to receive from the government, and how can they get exposure on the market, and how should we add elements in our teaching when we are doing indigenization in our curriculum. So it's my objective, my incentive to write the case.
Finally, what advice do you have for business students and aspiring entrepreneurs who wish to start their own business?
So I also prepared one page of slide. Actually, students all like practical things. They like to hear about the real story. And actually, some of them, I mean, they didn't focus on the theory. Actually, the theory is so important, theory and the models for them to start their business. They can't only follow a successful story. They must do analysis, honestly. So in my teaching, I also focus on how to apply the mature models in their entrepreneur. So first is they try the theory. They trace the theory of the entrepreneur. The passion is not enough. The innovation skills and creative thinkings are the essential skill. You can't only have the passion. You must find a path, right? A pathway and develop, make it happen, how to make it happen. So I think when they have the passion, when they know how to start a business, they may do some analysis. So the SWOT analysis is the very basic one to identify the opportunity, the strengths and opportunities and the future, the weakness as well. So I would advise they may write the SWOT. They use a piece of paper, they write the SWOT clearly. And also the 5 force framework is important. So from the data, either from the data collection or from the secondary data or from the other stories, I think it's important for the young entrepreneur to determine the 5 force framework. So, I mean, it's not enough if you only have the passionate. The market analysis. The market analysis is very important. And we can't only ignore the analysis, only focus on the innovation. We must make it happen. And there are quite a few resources they can refer to, like the BDC, the BDC Canada, and also like some consulting companies they can go to. And I hope they can learn the data collection and data analysis from first from the market. So not only to hear about the story, have the passionate. The most important thing is how to make it happen. So, I mean, it's best for the young entrepreneurs to learn some marketing and business theories, the models, like some analysis. I have a successful entrepreneur student in Alberta. She opened Instagram online shop. She was doing like some international trade. So she import some raw materials from Asia, and she used them to some finished products, and she's selling them in Instagram. And her marketing strategy is go to United States, open online shop internationally, and do it diligently. She worked very hard. So you don't sometimes an idea is just an idea. You must make it happen. With the theories, apply the models, and work diligently. At the very beginning, she only earned several $100s per month. But now she's doing very well.
Thank you for your time, Vicky. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, David.